බිස්කට් වේදිකාවට දැන් පැමිණි සීග්‍රගාමී රසේ මංචි පොටේටෝ ක්‍රැකර්. බිස්කට් වේදිකාවට දැන් පැමිණි සීග්‍රගාමී රසේ මංචි පොටේටෝ ක්‍රැකර්.
On satellite, on Freeview, on cable, on radio, on mobile, on the web and around the world. This is First at 9 on Other Derana 24/7.
Making headlines first at 9. Confidence issues. 39 parliamentarians hand over a no-confidence motion against Minister Rajitha Senaratne. Mini polls on same day. Uva Provincial Council defeats the 20th Amendment ahead of parliamentary vote. Rule of law. Bar holds Deputy Minister Ranjan Ramanayaka in contempt of court. Widening the net. Minister Eran Vikramaratne says Inland Revenue Bill will be tabled in line with Supreme Court recommendations. Making headlines in the international arena. Safeguarding privacy. Indian Supreme Court undermines biometric ID system. Bringing you news from home and across the world. This is First at 9 on Other Derana 24/7. Good evening, I'm Katharina Chang. Starting off on your top story tonight, the joint opposition handed over a no-confidence motion to the Speaker this afternoon against the Minister of Health and Indigenous Medicine, Dr. Rajitha Senaratne. The no-confidence motion, citing 11 accusations against the Minister of Health, was signed by 39 representatives of the joint opposition.
Among the accusations levelled against Dr. Rajitha Senaratne is obstruction of justice by not responding to accusations of fraud and corruption before the Bribery Commission, plunging the country's medical education into crisis, prioritising commercial objectives, maintaining the Neville Fernando Hospital with public funds, misleading the cabinet and the public, ordering the purchase of medicines for breast cancer via a company owned by an acquaintance amidst rejections by specialists, incurring a considerable loss to the government by selling the Mutwal Fisheries Harbour outside the tender process at a very low sum. Members of the joint opposition expressed their views at a media briefing held today on the no-confidence motion against Minister Dr. Rajitha Senaratne.
The joint opposition have started signing up in a matter of few minutes a no-confidence motion against the Minister of Health. We have lost faith in the Honourable Minister. The country is critical of the Honourable Minister and the Parliament has lost faith. And we would request the Honourable Speaker to give us the earliest possible date for the debate.
Powerful members of the government have assured us that they will vote in favour of the no-confidence motion against Minister Rajitha. We are receiving a positive response against Minister Rajitha than we got against former Minister Ravi Karunanayaka.
However, Minister Senaratne convened a media briefing regarding the no-confidence motion against him.
They say that I did not appear before the Bribery Commission. I went there 3 times and gave statements. Those people were surprised about the accusations. There is an accusation over the Mutwal Fisheries Harbour. Its executive director informed my officials that 3 valuation reports were considered before the harbour was given to the highest one. Gotabaya Rajapaksa, the then Secretary of Defence, attempted to take over the harbour for Sri Lanka Navy, and we hurried as we wanted to keep it under the Ministry of Fisheries. Accusations are hurled at me for fighting for justice and trying to punish the murderers and corrupted of the previous government.
මම ඉදිරියෙන්ම ඉඳගෙන ඒවා හොයා ගැනීමට සටන් වදිනවා. එමතුමා ඔබතුමාට ඉවත් වෙන්න වෙයිද? මොකේ කොහෙන් ඉවත් වෙන්න? මාව ඉවත් කරන්න ආපු කට්ටිය ඔක්කොම ඉවත් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. නෑ ඔතන රවි කර්මාණන් ඔබතුමාට ඉවත් වෙන්න වෙනවා නේ. චෝදනා ආපු වෙන්න. නෑ යාට චෝදනාවක් ආවේ නෑ. යා හිටියේ සාක්ෂිකාරයෙක් විදිහටයි.
The local government amendment bill will be taken up for a vote in Parliament tomorrow, following a decision made at the party leaders' meeting. The vote will be held during the morning session in Parliament.
50 amendments have been introduced to the local government amendment bill. We need time to discuss whether all these amendments are legal and in line with the Constitution. Please give us another day to further debate the matter. These amendments are nothing new. We've already discussed these things 27 times with the opposition. They always demand elections and even go to courts. But now they're trying to delay the bill from passing. We're even ready to pass the bill today.
අපි සූදානම් මේක අද කරන්න. අද අපි මේක විවාද කරමු. හෙට දිනේ ඡන්දෙට ගමු. අපි නිස්තාවර මේ අවුරුද්ද ඇතුළත මේ මැතිවරණ පැවැත්විය යුතුයි.
Any member of this house requires clarification of those amendments. My officials are there today at a committee room. I'm in a position to give them
anyway, so we'll start the debate. We'll discuss that at the leaders' side.
Parliamentarian Anura Disanayake gave his amendments. I request the joint opposition to present their amendments now. The JVP knew all the 50 amendments beforehand. They held discussions with the government, but all other parliamentarians received these amendments this morning. We want the local government elections as soon as possible, and we are ready to pass the bill even today. But before we do, we need to understand what these amendments are. Now this is a political opinion. No amendments are presented here. We are ready to vote today. They are trying to postpone this. The election commissioner said he could hold the election 55 days after the amendments are passed.
The draft bill of the 20th Amendment to the Constitution, which is geared towards holding all provincial elections on the same day, was defeated with a majority vote at the Uva Provincial Council today. Now, 12 provincial councillors, including Chief Minister Chamara Sampath Dasanayake, voted against the draft bill, while only 5 voted for the bill.
The draft bill of the 20th Amendment to the Constitution pertaining to same-day provincial council elections was put to a vote at the Uva Provincial Council today. There were only 5 votes in favour, while 12 provincial councillors voted against. Chief Minister of the Uva Province, Chamara Sampath Dasanayake, also voted against the bill. 5 provincial councillors of the UNP voted in favour. However, Minister of Agriculture Upali Samaraweera, 3 other provincial councillors of the United National Party, opposition leader R.M. Ratnayake, and provincial councillors of the JVP, Samantha Vidyaratna and R.M. Jayawardena, abstained from voting. As a result, the draft bill to hold all provincial elections on the same day under the 20th Amendment to the Constitution was defeated by 7 votes. The draft bill, meanwhile, was passed in the North Central Provincial Council with a majority of 2 votes on Tuesday. The vote on the draft bill of the 20th Amendment to the Constitution was postponed in the Central Province as more time was requested by the Central Provincial Council members to study the bill.
Meanwhile, the joint opposition warns that the 50 amendments introduced to the 20th Amendment bill could create instability in the local government election and its results. These remarks were made by the members of the joint opposition during a special media briefing held at the parliamentary premises today.
The local government elections amendment bill, which is before the House today, came as a result of a 2-year-long battle the joint opposition launched to win an election for the people. Today what we have before us are the essential amendments that the election commission had wanted to hold the election. The last 2 months we have been saying that we will support what the commission has been wanting. But today the government comes in the morning and introduces 50 amendments, which creates perhaps instability in the election as well as election result. and we asked them to explain. They are still unable to explain. Now they want us to pass it without even getting an explanation of the clauses from the government. But we will keep on agitating as well as our position for the local government elections to be held as early as possible so that the people would benefit as a result of councils being elected.
Meanwhile, several civil organizations mainly engaged in election monitoring functions claim that the government is tactfully postponing elections via the 20th Amendment to the Constitution. They made this allegation today at a media briefing held in Colombo.
It is clear that good governance regime is attempting to postpone both the local government and provincial council elections.
3 provincial councils will end in October, and with this insight, it's really suspicious the way the government has brought the 20th Amendment Bill, which puts a set date, which talks about a set date for all of the elections. But however, bringing this particular amendment at this point in time creates suspicions about the government's intentions. If they had true intentions, this could have been something that was brought about earlier. And if they do really want to regulate elections, they can still bring this forward, and they can actually specify a date in the amendment. For example, we know in the United States, they have the elections on a specified date. Just like that, the government can actually specify a date, taking away the concerns and the suspicions within this particular amendment.
The Executive Committee of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka intends to institute contempt of court proceedings against Deputy Minister of Social Empowerment, Welfare and Kandyan Heritage, Ranjan Ramanayaka. The Bar said a recent statement by the Deputy Minister Ramanayaka had undermined the judiciary of Sri Lanka. Deputy President of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, MUM Ali Sabri, condemned the particular statement at a media briefing today.
There was unanimity at the meeting which was held yesterday at the Bar Association that Deputy Minister Mr. Ranjan Ramanayaka's speech or remarks about the judges, judiciary and the majority of the lawyers is unwarranted, uncalled for. Hence we decided that to condemn that statement and also to empower the Secretary to institute contempt of court proceedings against him. Why we have taken this decision is the rule of law is founded upon independence of judiciary. Rule of law means everybody is equal before the law. The moment people started, without foundation, proof and evidence, question the authority of the courts and the judiciary, the general public will start lose respect and dignity towards the courts. And that is unacceptable. If you have evidence against any judges, if you have evidence against any lawyers of involving in corrupt practices, as he calls, without talking to the gallery, go make complaint, then come back, without disreputing or disparaging the judiciary as a whole, which is a very disturbing trend. We are a little worried about this trend, initially about the law enforcement authorities, then against the Attorney General's Department, thereafter against the lawyers, thereafter now against the judiciary. So this trend should be arrested immediately. Otherwise, we are not going to sit and wait.
With the removal of former Justice Minister Vijayadasa Rajapaksa from office still fresh, various political party representatives continue to express views on the matter today as well.
The final battle of a crook is to feign nationalistic sentiment. We were unhappy with him from the beginning over his duties. There were no personal grudges. We never had deals with the Rajapakshas. He will voice small things in the future to propagate views of the Rajapaksa cadre. He acts as if he awoke from sleep. There is no reason for him to leave the party if he is in support of its stance. Minister Vijayadasa had to leave since the CID is now on the trail of thieves implicated in the bond issue at the Commission of Inquiry. When a theft is being uncovered, the thieves ask for the resignation of the Minister minister overlooking the Aegis department. He should reveal to the country the reasons behind his departure and objections he faced within the party. Minister Vijayadasa stood up against political interference in the Aegis department and court proceedings. The SLFP said that they will not be party to any decision taken against Minister Vijayadasa Rajapaksa, but in the end, the minister was sacked. Truly, we felt that the Aegis department, the CID and the FCID are delaying the cases on purpose.
President Maithripala states the use of alcohol and narcotics in the country has increased despite various laws and regulations put in place to combat the menace. The head of state made the statement addressing a meeting yesterday held at the Presidential Secretariat centering on narcotics prevention.
At the meeting, President Maithripala Sirisena directed the heads of law enforcement authorities to implement a special program led by the police and tri-forces to prevent the spread of narcotics in the country.
The price for taking action against narcotics for some officials of the police, narcotics bureau and other security forces was their lives. Although many programs have been implemented to eradicate and control illicit drugs, their spread has increased within the country. To prevent such situations, we as a government should work together with these institutions. The necessity for an efficient program is clear.
පෙනීගින් තිබෙනවා. කොළඹ වතු නිවාස තියෙන තැන නැත්නම් අඩුවාදාන ලාභී පවුල් ඉන්න තට්ටු නිවාසයක් ගත්තොත් සිගරට් එකක් බොනවා වගේ ඔක්කොම ඉඳගෙන හවසට අදිනවා. ඇයි ඒව අල්ලන්නේ නැත්තේ? එතකොට ඒව පස්සේ ගිහිල්ලා හොයාගන්න බැරිද?
ඒකේ වැඩ කොටස් දෙකක් තියෙනවා එතනස. මේ අයව අල්ලලා දැම්මට සිර දඬුවම ගෙවලා එළියට එනවා. එළියට ආවම ඒකම පටන් ගන්නවා. ඉතින් අනිත් පැත්තෙන් අපි අර නිවාරණ වැඩසටහනත් ඊට වඩා සාර්ථකව ගෙනියන්න. මෙතුමා ඒ අල්ලලා ඉර දඬු දාන්නේ බොන මිනිහනේ. බෙදෙන එක්කන නෙවෙයි. දැන් එච්චර පිරිසක් බොනවා නම් මේ පෙනි බොනවා නම් ඒ මිනිස්සු යන එන තැන් බලලා ඇයි ඒ මිනිස්සුන්ට එන තැන ඒ දිගට ගිහින් අල්ලන්න බැරි මේ.
Meanwhile, the UNP backbenchers met with President Maithripala Sirisena last night. Expressing views following the meeting, MP said a request to expedite legal action against wrongdoers was made from the President.
Can Sri Lanka meet energy demand with renewables by 2050? With a highly ambitious target towards achieving climate sustainability and gradually phasing out of fossil fuels from the country's electricity mix, a recent study says it is in fact possible. The joint study conducted by the UN Development Programme and the Asian Development Bank is titled Assessment of Sri Lanka's Power Sector 100% Electricity Generation through Renewable Energy by 2050.
The report comes after Sri Lanka pledged to embrace renewable energy during the 22nd UNFCCC Conference of Parties in Morocco as part of the Climate Vulnerable Forum in November last year. According to the report, by 2050, the country's installed electricity generation capacity needs will increase from the current 37,000 megawatts to about 34,000 megawatts. Of this, 15,000 megawatts will be wind energy and about 16,000 megawatts will be solar energy, while the balance is expected to be through hydro and biomass-based power plants. The assessment went on to show that the substitution of imported fossil fuel with renewable energy until 2050 provides direct monetary benefits and will reduce Sri Lanka's full import bill by about $18 billion cumulatively. The report estimates that total investment to the tune of $54 to $56 billion will be necessary in the power sector to achieve the 100% RE scenario. Speaking exclusively to Derana, Director of Development at the Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy, Sulakshana Javardhana said that a procurement process has been initiated to develop large-scale wind and solar power plants.
There is a potential to absorb 410 megawatt of solar by 2020, including solar rooftop system, and also achieve 414 megawatt of wind power by 2020. So those are the targets in future. In 2015, we introduced a competitive bidding process to select suitable or successful bidders to develop wind and solar projects. So that will be the policy of the government to develop solar and wind projects through competitive bidding, and while giving the opportunity for private sector investors to develop those projects. We are targeting to achieve 200 megawatt by 2020 from solar rooftop system and also another 800 megawatt by 2025.
Sri Lanka's energy demand is currently being catered to by several energy sources consisting of both indigenous non-fossil fuels and imported fossil fuels. The report further revealed that with the increased dependence of fossil fuels, Sri Lanka's greenhouse gas emissions, which while amongst the lowest in the world as well as in South Asia, has been growing steadily over the past decade.
The Colombo Magistrates Court today took up the case filed against former Presidential Secretary Lalit Weeratunga and former Director General of the Telecommunications Regulatory Commission Anusha Palpiter. They are accused of incurring a 650 million rupee loss to the government by distributing clothing used to observe SIL to temples island-wide during the last presidential election. Now, Colombo High Court Judge Gihan Kulatunga ruled that the verdict will be given on the 7th of September. Let's now take a look at some other stories making news across Sri Lanka.
The Criminal Investigation Department today notified the Colombo Magistrates Court that former Colombo Judicial Medical Officer Professor Ananda Samarasekara could be arrested as a suspect in the murder of Ragarite Wasim Tajuddin. This was notified when the case was taken up today, and the Colombo Additional Magistrate ordered that the case be deliberated on the 28th of September. The Department for Registration of Persons says new electronic national identity cards will be issued from the 1st of September. Commissioner General of the department, Vyani Gunathilaka, said that ENICs can be obtained by those who apply for new national IDs during the first stage of the program. Chief Prelate of the Malwatha chapter, Most Venerable Tibbatuwave Sri Sumangala Thera, will appoint a 7-member committee to resolve administration issues in the Kotmale Mahavali Mahasaya. The issues had arisen between Chief Incumbent of the temple, Venerable Tispane Jinananda Thera, and Minister Navin Disanayaka, whose late father, former Minister Gamini Disanayaka, initiated construction of the temple.
On Business News tonight, State Minister of Finance Derana Vikramaratne says the government has included the views and suggestions voiced by the business community of the country in the new Inland Revenue Bill due to be tabled in Parliament tomorrow. Speaking at a media briefing today, the State Minister added that the increase of income tax will affect about 10 to 20% of the country whose monthly earnings exceed 100,000 rupees.
We wanted to do this in a transparent manner, so we have presented the bill. We have had many representations made on the bill from business chambers, from industrialists, from businessmen, and from the trade unions. We have welcomed those suggestions, and wherever we think that those suggestions have been reasonable, we have incorporated it already and will be presented as amendments by the government itself when the bill is presented to Parliament tomorrow.
The State Minister also explained the government's plan to broaden the tax net.
The principle is, right, rather than to keep taxing those who are already being taxed, we have to broad base those who are paying tax. Given our level of GDP and per capita income, we probably have to have maybe 4 to 5 times of taxpayers than we already have. In terms of everybody, the principle is everybody who receives an income should be paying taxes, which is a national contribution.
On cricket news tonight, Sri Lanka scored 236 runs for the loss of 8 wickets in the second one-day international against India today in Pallekele. Indian captain Virat Kohli won the toss, opted to bowl first. With the match still underway, India is given a revised target of 231 to be brought up in 47 overs as rain briefly stopped play. India currently 114 runs for the loss of 2 wickets in 16.5 overs. Let's now go for a small commercial break. Challenging the world's largest biometric identity card scheme, Indian Supreme Court ruled individuals' privacy as a fundamental right. The ruling follows a 9-bench hearing over public concerns about the ID scheme, known as Aadhar, on alleged breach of individual privacy and misuse of personal data.
Over the past 8 years, the Indian government collected fingerprints and iris scans from more than 1 billion citizens for the biometric ID scheme, which was initiated to manage benefit fraud. The scheme was recently made mandatory for access to welfare. Critics have expressed apprehension that the data collected for the scheme could be misused, with citizens vulnerable to involuntary profiling. Overturning the Supreme Court's previous rulings, judges ruled that privacy was a fundamental right, spelling implications for the Aadhar scheme.
The court will have to see whether that law imposes reasonable restrictions on your fundamental right to privacy or not.
On to your weather forecast for the next 24 hours now. Cloudy skies can be expected at most parts of the island. Several spells of showers will occur in the western Sabaragamu, central and northwestern provinces and in Galle and Mathri districts. Let's now take a look at your city-by-city weather forecast. Before we go, we'd like to take you to the Hinaradgoda Botanical Garden in Gampha. The first rubber tree imported to Sri Lanka was planted in this garden, which is now a famed tourism site and a centre for research. And with that note, we come to the end of this edition of First at 9. Thank you for joining us. Have a pleasant evening.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.